The Shattered Accord. The obsidian spires of Zarathus Prime, capital of the Galactic Coalition, pierced the eternal twilight of its binary stars. The city buzzed with alien lifeforms, each one a unique blend of biology and technology. At the heart of this sprawling metropolis stood the Council Hall, a gleaming dome that pulsed with the energy of the Coalition's combined might. Tonight, it was hosting its most precarious gathering in centuries, a summit meant to address rising tensions between the Calorian Dominion and the fledgling Terran Alliance. Captain Alara Voss, Earth's leading diplomat, adjusted her formal military-inspired attire. Her auburn hair was tied tightly back, her piercing green eyes scanning the room. Though she was here to represent humanity, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was an ant among giants. The Calorian delegates, their shimmering scales refracting the soft luminescence of the dome, loomed over her. Their every move exuded a predator's grace, and their dark, slit-pupil eyes betrayed little emotion. The Calorian leader, High Chancellor Drothex, stood at the center of the room, addressing the Coalition's representatives. His deep, resonant voice filled the chamber. 3 cycles ago, he began, a Terran mining operation violated the sovereignty of Calorian space. This is an act of war. Gasps rippled through the room. Ilara's fists clenched at her sides. The accusation was a gross exaggeration. The mining crew had been scavenging a derelict asteroid on the border of Calorian territory. But the Calorians thrived on dominance, and they saw humanity as an upstart species testing its bounds. Ilara stepped forward, her boots clicking sharply on the polished floor. High Chancellor Drothex, she said, her voice steady, the mining incident was a misunderstanding. Earth has no interest in provoking hostilities. We seek collaboration, not conflict. Drothex's golden crest flared, an alien expression of disdain. Words are easy for species with no strength to back them. Collaboration. Your kind barely qualifies as sentient in the eyes of the Dominion. The insult burned, but Ilara held her composure. Before she could respond, a sudden commotion at the hall's entrance drew everyone's attention. The massive doors, intricately engraved with the Coalition's insignia, burst open. A group of Zekarans, a nomadic species known for their anarchistic tendencies, stumbled in, clearly in distress. The Dominion fleet, one of them gasped, his 6 eyes wide with terror, they've attacked the outer colonies. Thousands are dead. A wave of chaos swept through the hall. Delegates shouted over one another, their voices a cacophony of fear and outrage. Ilara's mind raced. If this was true, it meant the Calorians weren't here to negotiate, they were here to justify war. Drothex didn't deny the claim. Instead, he turned to the room with a chilling smile. The colonies were harboring rebels who sought to undermine our rule. The Dominion does what is necessary to maintain order. Ilara felt her stomach turn. This wasn't diplomacy, it was a show of force. If humanity didn't act now, they would be next on the Dominion's list. She caught the eye of Counselor Reinix, a Zendaran ally who had always been sympathetic to Earth's cause. Counselor, she said urgently, stepping closer, if the Coalition doesn't intervene, the Calorians will continue their campaign unchecked. Today, it's the colonies. Tomorrow, it'll be Earth. Reinix hesitated, their bioluminescent crest flickering uncertainly. Captain Voss, the Coalition values peace above all. To act against the Dominion risks plunging us into a full-scale war. Peace without action is surrender, Ilara shot back. Humanity has faced impossible odds before, and we've survived. But if we stand alone against the Dominion, we'll be wiped out. Help us now, and we can stop this before it spirals out of control. Reinix studied her for a long moment before nodding. I will call for an emergency vote. The next hours passed in a blur. Ilara's impassioned plea swayed enough council members to pass a motion condemning the Dominion's actions. But condemnation wasn't enough, Ilara knew they needed to strike while the Dominion's forces were scattered. As the Coalition prepared its fleets, Elara returned to her quarters aboard the TSS Resolute, Earth's flagship. The weight of the impending conflict pressed heavily on her. Humanity had only recently entered the galactic stage, and now they were about to face one of its most powerful empires. A soft chime interrupted her thoughts. The holographic communicator on her desk blinked to life, revealing the face of Commander Riven Cade, her closest friend and second-in-command. His sharp features were etched with worry. "Elara," he said, "we just received intel. The Dominion has mobilized a second fleet. They're heading straight for Earth." Her blood ran cold. "How long do we have?" 2 days, maybe less." Elara straightened, her resolve hardening. "Then we'll meet them head-on. Ready the fleet. Humanity won't go down without a fight." As the hologram faded, Elara gazed out at the stars. She knew the coming battle would test her species like never before. But if humanity had one defining trait, it was their unyielding will to survive. The countdown to war had begun. The call to unity. The vast expanse of space stretched endlessly before the TSS Resolute, humanity's flagship, as it sped through the black void toward Earth. The stars, distant and indifferent, seemed to mock the urgency of their mission. Inside the command deck, the air crackled with tension. The news of the Dominion's second fleet barreling toward Earth had set every human crew member on edge. Captain Elara Voss stood at the center of the bridge, her emerald eyes scanning the holographic display of the incoming Calorian fleet. The Dominion had mobilized a force double the size of Earth's entire defense armada. The numbers were staggering, the odds impossible. Yet retreat wasn't an option. "Commander Cade," Elara said, her voice calm despite the storm brewing inside her. "What's the status of the Coalition fleet?" Commander Riven Cade, his sharp features taut with concentration, glanced at his console. "The Zendaran and Zavaran squadrons are en route. The Kyran war hosts have committed their destroyers, but they're still hours behind us. We'll be the first to engage." A murmur rippled through the crew. The idea of facing the Dominion without immediate support was daunting. Elara stepped forward, her boots striking the metal floor with a confidence she didn't entirely feel. "Send a message to all Coalition ships. Tell them Earth is holding the line. They'll join us when they can, but we'll fight regardless." Her words hung in the air like a promise, steady and unshakable. Rallying the forces. Minutes later, Elara stood in the ship's central briefing room. The space was packed with officers, technicians, and soldiers. Holograms of the Dominion fleet flickered in the air, casting eerie light on the faces of those present. "We're outnumbered. Outgunned. And according to Dominion propaganda, already defeated," Elara began, her tone sharp and unyielding. "But humanity has faced extinction before. Each time, we've risen stronger. This is no different." The room was silent, the weight of her words sinking in. "They think we're weak," she continued, her voice rising. "They think we'll crumble under pressure. But we've shown them our resilience before, and we'll do it again. The Coalition is counting on us to hold the line. Not just for Earth, but for every species that dreams of freedom." A murmur of agreement swept through the crowd. Elara locked eyes with Lieutenant Tariq Yadin, a former miner who had risen through the ranks due to his tactical brilliance. "Lieutenant Yadin," she said, "I need you to lead a strike team. Your mission is to infiltrate the Dominion flagship. If we can disable their command systems, we can disrupt their formation." Yadin nodded sharply. "Consider it done, Captain." Elara turned to the rest of the room. "The rest of us will focus on defending Earth's orbital platforms. We have the home field advantage. Use it. A surprising ally." As the meeting dispersed, Elara returned to the bridge. She hadn't been there more than a minute when an incoming transmission alert blinked on her console. "Unknown vessel approaching," reported the comms officer. "They're requesting a direct line to you, Captain." Elara frowned. "Put it through." The holographic display lit up with the image of a Calorian dissident, his scales dull and scarred from years of conflict. His piercing yellow eyes betrayed a sharp intelligence. "Captain Voss," he began, his voice low and gravelly. "I am Valric Torin, a former admiral of the Dominion fleet. I've come to offer my assistance." Ilara's brow furrowed. Why would a Calorian defect to help humans? Valric leaned forward, his expression grim. "Because I've seen what the Dominion does to those it conquers. They strip planets of resources, enslave populations, and leave nothing but ruin in their wake. I won't stand by and watch them do the same to Earth." The bridge was silent, the weight of his words heavy. "You're asking us to trust you," Ilara said cautiously. "How do we know this isn't a trap?" Valric's gaze didn't waver. "You don't. But if you refuse my help, Earth will fall." Ilara studied him for a long moment before nodding. "What's your plan?" "The plan of attack." Valric's hologram pointed to a specific point on the Dominion fleet map. The Dominion's fleet relies on tactical relays, which synchronize their movements. Destroy the relays, and their ships will lose coordination, giving you a chance to counterattack. Commander Cade stepped closer. "We'd need to launch a precision strike to disable those relays. It won't be easy." "It never is," Ilara replied. She turned to Valric. "If this works, you'll have proven your loyalty. But if this is a trap..." Valric cut her off. "You'll be dead either way, Captain." Ilara allowed herself a faint smile. "Fair point. Preparing for battle." The next hours were a frenzy of preparation. Crews loaded weapons, calibrated targeting systems, and reviewed their strategies. Valric's presence added an air of uncertainty, but his insights proved invaluable. As the fleet approached Earth, the Dominion's ships came into view, their sheer size and number intimidating even the most seasoned officers. The main relay station loomed in the center of their formation, heavily guarded. Ilara stood on the bridge, her hand resting on the edge of the command console. "This is it," she said softly. Commander Cade glanced at her. "You're ready for this?" She nodded. "We don't have a choice." The Dominion fleet began to close in, their sleek, dark ship spreading out like a net. Earth's defense platforms powered up, their cannons swiveling into position. "Relay strike team, you're clear for launch," Ilara ordered. Lieutenant Yadin's voice crackled over the comms. "Acknowledged, Captain. We'll make it count." As the strike team shuttle streaked toward the Dominion fleet, Ilara took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. The survival of Earth, and humanity's place in the galaxy, hung in the balance. The fractured sky. The dark void of space erupted with light and chaos as Earth's orbital defense platforms engaged the Dominion fleet. Streams of plasma and ionized projectiles tore across the heavens, painting the battlefield in fiery hues of destruction. The TSS Resolute maneuvered through the chaos, its shields flickering as enemy fire grazed the hull. Captain Ilara Voss stood resolute at the command console, her voice calm but firm as she barked orders. "All squadrons, maintain formation. Focus fire on their forward cruisers to create an opening for the strike team." The Dominion fleet, a terrifying wall of obsidian warships, moved in perfect synchronicity. It was like watching a predatory machine, each part working flawlessly with the others. But Ilara knew their precision was their greatest vulnerability. "Commander Cade," she said, turning to her second-in-command, "what's the status of the strike team?" "Yadin's team has breached the Dominion perimeter," Cade replied, his voice tight with tension. "They're heading for the tactical relay, but resistance is heavier than expected." Ilara clenched her fists. The strike team was humanity's best chance of turning the tide. Without them, the battle would spiral into a war of attrition, one Earth couldn't win. Inside the enemy's maw. Aboard the Dominion flagship, Lieutenant Tariq Yadin led his team through the dimly lit corridors of the colossal warship. The air was thick with the hum of alien machinery in the faint, acrid scent of burning metal. "Keep moving," Yadin whispered, his voice barely audible over the distant sounds of combat. "The relay station is just ahead." The team moved with practiced precision, their boots silent on the metallic floor. They were a small group of Earth's elite operatives, armed with cutting-edge tech designed to counter Calorian defenses. Still, every step felt like a gamble. As they approached the relay chamber, the team encountered their first major obstacle, a squad of Calorian guards, their golden scales glinting in the dim light. Yadin motioned for his team to take cover. "Standard formation. On my mark." The humans struck with calculated efficiency. Yadin launched a flash charge, momentarily blinding the guards. His team moved in, their weapons emitting short, precise bursts of plasma that overwhelmed the Calorian defenses. Within moments, the corridor was silent again, save for the team's heavy breathing. "Relay room, 2 clicks ahead," said Specialist Marina Griggs, her tone focused. "We need to move fast. They'll know we're here now." The turning point. Back on the TSS Resolute, the battle raged on. Earth's forces were holding, but barely. The Dominion's relentless assault pushed the defensive line closer to collapse with each passing moment. "Shields at 47%, reported the tactical officer. "We're not going to last much longer." Ilara's mind raced. Every instinct told her to retreat, to regroup and save what remained of her fleet. But Earth was directly behind them. If they fell back, the planet would be defenseless. "Divert auxiliary power to the forward shields," she ordered. "And concentrate all fire on that destroyer. We need to punch a hole in their line." Commander Cade hesitated. "Captain, if we divert power, we'll lose thruster mobility." "We don't need to move," Ilara said firmly. "We just need to hold." As the crew carried out her orders, a new alert flashed on the console. An incoming transmission from the Dominion flagship. "It's Valric," Cade said. "Put him through." Valric's scarred face appeared on the holographic display. "Captain Voss, I have critical intel. The Dominion has deployed a failsafe in the relay. If your strike team destroys it, the entire ship will self-destruct, and take Yadin's team with it." Ilara's heart sank. "Why didn't you tell us this sooner?" "I didn't know," Valric said, his expression grim. "The failsafe is a recent modification. They must have anticipated an infiltration." Ilara's mind whirred. She couldn't sacrifice Yadin's team, they were some of Earth's best. But if they didn't destroy the relay, Earth would fall. "Patch me through to Yadin," she said. A critical choice. In the relay chamber, Yadin's team worked feverishly to bypass the security protocols. The relay was a massive, pulsating structure of alien technology, its glowing nodes radiating a faint heat. "Ilara?" Yadin's voice crackled over the comms. "Yadin, the relay has a failsafe," Ilara said, her voice heavy. "If you destroy it, the ship will self-destruct." Yadin didn't hesitate. "Understood. What are your orders?" Ilara hesitated, the weight of the decision pressing down on her. "Is there any way to disable the failsafe?" Griggs, her fingers flying across the console, shook her head. "Negative, Captain. This system is designed to self-destruct if tampered with. It's a one-way trip." Ilara closed her eyes. The weight of leadership meant making impossible choices. "Yadin," she said finally, her voice steady, "your mission is critical. If you can complete it, you have my permission to proceed." There was a long pause. Then Yadin's voice came through, calm and resolute. "Understood, Captain. It's been an honor." The relays fall. Yadin and his team worked quickly, bypassing the final layers of security. Alarms blared, and the walls trembled as the Dominion forces closed in. "Last node disabled," Griggs said, her voice tight. "We're ready to blow it." "Set the charges," Yadin ordered. As the explosives were armed, the team prepared for their final stand. Yadin activated his comm one last time. "Elara," he said, "you've got about 30 seconds. Get clear." On the TSS Resolute, Elara's throat tightened, but she didn't let it show. "Understood, Yadin. Your sacrifice won't be forgotten." The strike team detonated the charges, and the Dominion relay erupted in a blinding explosion. The synchronized movements of the Dominion fleet faltered, their ships spiraling into disarray. "Now!" Elara commanded. "All ships, press the attack." As Earth's fleet surged forward, Elara allowed herself a moment to grieve. The battle wasn't over, but Yadin's sacrifice had given them a fighting chance. The silent gamble. The remnants of the Dominion fleet hung in disarray, their sleek formations fractured by the loss of their tactical relay. Earth's defensive line pushed forward, seizing the fleeting advantage, but the cost of their momentum lingered in every breath the crew took. On the TSS Resolute, Captain Elara Voss stood silent at the bridge, her hands gripping the console tightly. The holographic display showed the shattered remains of the Dominion flagship, its core still glowing faintly from the strike team's sacrifice. She hadn't moved since the explosion lit up the void, her mind replaying Yadin's final words over and over. "Captain," Commander Riven Cade said softly, breaking the silence. "The fleet's waiting on your orders." Elara turned, her green eyes burning with unspoken grief. "This fight isn't over. If we don't press now, their reinforcements will arrive, and everything Yadin gave us will mean nothing." Her voice carried an edge of steel, and the crew straightened instinctively. Elara's grief would have to wait. Right now, there was a war to win. A dangerous proposition. As the Resolute moved closer to the Dominion's remaining fleet, an unexpected alert blinked across the console. "Incoming transmission," the comms officer reported. "It's from the Dominion High Command." The bridge fell silent. Every battle-hardened officer knew the Dominion didn't negotiate unless they were desperate. "Put it through," Elara ordered. The holographic projector flickered to life, revealing Admiral Kale Vostar, a towering Kalorian with obsidian scales and piercing red eyes. He looked as though he was carved from the very stone of his homeworld. "Captain Voss," Kale began, his deep voice carrying a deliberate calm. "Your tenacity is surprising. Few species have ever resisted the Dominion for this long." "Save your compliments, Admiral," Elara replied coldly. "If you have something to say, say it." Kale's crimson gaze narrowed, his predatory smile betraying his amusement. "Very well. I propose a ceasefire. Humanity will withdraw its forces and dismantle its orbital defenses. In return, the Dominion will spare Earth from annihilation." Elara's jaw tightened. The audacity of the offer left her stunned for only a moment. "You want us to hand you Earth on a silver platter? That's not a ceasefire, Admiral. That's surrender." "Call it what you will," Kale said, leaning closer to the hologram. "But consider your position. Your fleet is crippled. Your species is weak and unprepared for the larger war this will provoke. Agree to our terms, and humanity survives. And if we don't?" Kale's smile widened. "Then we will finish what we've started." Elara held his gaze, her mind racing. The offer was a trap, but it revealed something critical: the Dominion wasn't as confident as they appeared. They were stalling. "You'll have my answer soon, Admiral," she said, cutting the transmission. "Unlikely alliances." As the image faded, Elara turned to her officers. "He's lying. They're buying time for reinforcements. We need to act now." "Captain," Cade interjected, his tone cautious. "Even with the Dominion in disarray, we're still outnumbered. We can't win a head-on assault." Elara nodded. "Agreed. That's why we're not going to fight alone." She turned to the comms officer. "Open a secure line to Valric Torren." Moments later, the scarred face of the Kalorian defector appeared on the display. Captain Voss, he said, his voice tinged with weariness. I take it the Admiral has made his offer. He did, Elara confirmed. And I need your help to reject it properly. You know their fleet inside and out. If we strike the right targets, we can take them down before their reinforcements arrive. Valric hesitated, his expression conflicted. You're asking me to betray my people again. To kill them. I'm asking you to stop them, Elara countered. You came to us because you believed in something better. This is your chance to prove it. A long silence followed before Valric nodded. Very well. The Dominion's command structure is rigid. Take out their dread vanguard, and the rest of the fleet will collapse into chaos. The vanguard is heavily defended, Cade pointed out. We'll need more firepower to pull that off. Elara smiled faintly. Then it's time to call in a favor. Rallying the coalition. The Kyran war hosts arrived minutes later, their sleek ships roaring into formation alongside the Resolute. Their leader, Warlord Serenvaka, was known for her fiery temper and unbreakable loyalty to those she respected. The holographic display lit up with her image, her sharp, feline features marked by battle scars. Captain Voss, she growled. You've dragged us into quite the storm. Would you have it any other way? Elara replied with a smirk. Saren chuckled. Fair enough. What's the plan? Elara laid out the strategy, combining Valric's intel with the coalition's strengths. The Kyran war hosts would lead a diversionary assault, drawing the Dominion's forces away from the Dread Vanguard. Meanwhile, Earth's remaining ships and the Zendran fleet would deliver the killing blow. It's a bold move, Saren said. But boldness suits you, human. The final push. As the coalition fleet surged toward the Dominion, the void erupted with fire and destruction once more. The Kyran war hosts launched their assault with savage precision, their agile ships darting through the Dominion's ranks and scattering their defenses. On the bridge of the Resolute, Elara watched the chaos unfold. Cade, bring us into position. All weapons ready. The vanguard loomed ahead, a fortress of blackened steel and pulsating energy. It bristled with weapons, its shield shimmering like a deadly mirage. Fire all forward cannons, Elara commanded. Target their shield generators. The Resolute's weapons unleashed a barrage of plasma and ion fire, hammering the vanguard's defenses. Other coalition ships joined the assault, their combined firepower overwhelming the Dominion's counterattacks. Inside the vanguard, Valric led a strike team of Kyran soldiers, their mission to disable the ship's core. As they fought their way through the labyrinthine corridors, the Calorian defector moved with grim determination. You were right, Voss, he muttered under his breath. This isn't betrayal. It's redemption. A calculated risk. As the vanguard's shields collapsed, the Resolute delivered the final blow, a concentrated barrage that tore through the ship's hull and triggered a chain reaction in its core. The explosion lit up the void, sending shockwaves through the Dominion fleet. The remaining ships faltered, their once perfect coordination crumbling into chaos. Target the stragglers, Elara ordered. Push them back. Cheers erupted across the bridge as the coalition forces pressed their advantage. The Dominion's fleet began to retreat, their reinforcements too far away to intervene. As the last enemy ship fled into the void, Elara allowed herself a moment of relief. The battle was over, but the war was far from won. Shadows of the aftermath. The battlefield that had once been ablaze with energy and fire now drifted in an eerie silence. The Dominion fleet had retreated, their formation shattered and their will to fight broken. Earth's orbital defenses, though battered, still stood. Coalition ships hovered in a loose formation, their crews taking a collective breath after the chaos. On the TSS Resolute, Captain Elara Voss surveyed the scene from the bridge. The stars beyond the viewport sparkled against the backdrop of debris, shattered hulls of Dominion warships and fragments of destroyed coalition vessels. Each piece of floating wreckage was a reminder of the cost of survival. "Status report," Elara ordered, her voice even. "Casualties are heavy," Commander Cade replied grimly, his sharp features drawn. "We lost over 30% of the fleet. The Chirans took the brunt of the hits during the diversionary assault, but they're still operational." "And Earth?" "Orbital platforms held," Cade confirmed, his tone softening. "The planet is safe. For now." Elara nodded but didn't allow herself to feel relief. Battles could be won, but wars were rarely so simple. She turned her attention to the incoming transmissions flashing across her console. Requests for status updates, reports of damage, and one urgent message from an unexpected source. "Patch it through," she said. The holographic display flickered, revealing the imposing figure of Warlord Saren Vaka, leader of the Chiran war hosts. Her feline features were streaked with blood, but her golden eyes burned with pride. "You've done well, human," Saren said, her voice a mixture of admiration and exhaustion. "Few would have dared to challenge the Dominion so directly, let alone survive." "Survival isn't enough," Elara replied. "The Dominion will regroup. And when they do, they'll come back stronger." Saren's smile was grim. "Then we'll meet them again. But for now, you have earned our respect and loyalty." A sudden intrusion. As the transmission ended, another alert sounded across the bridge. "Unknown vessel entering the system," the comms officer announced. "It's not Dominion, but its configuration is strange." Elara frowned. "Bring it up on the display." The holographic screen displayed the incoming ship, a sleek, angular vessel with glowing blue conduits along its hull. It moved with a grace that seemed almost alive, unlike any Coalition or Dominion ship Elara had ever seen. "Can we identify it?" she asked. The science officer shook his head. "Negative, Captain. It doesn't match any known designs in our database." A moment later, a transmission request flashed on the console. "They're hailing us," Cade said. Elara hesitated. The battle was over, but her instincts told her that this encounter could be just as dangerous. "Accept it," she said. The display flickered to reveal an alien figure unlike anything Elara had seen. Its translucent skin shimmered with shifting patterns of light, and its elongated features gave it an air of serene intelligence. When it spoke, its voice resonated as though it echoed from multiple dimensions at once. "I am Velas, emissary of the Lothan Accord," the alien said. "We have been observing your conflict with the Dominion." Elara stiffened. The Lothan Accord was a name she'd only heard in whispers, an enigmatic and ancient alliance rumored to exist beyond the known galaxy. "Why reveal yourselves now?" she asked cautiously. "Because your actions have drawn the attention of forces far greater than the Dominion," Velas replied. "Your defiance has upset a balance that has endured for millennia. We have come to offer guidance, and a warning." "The warning." The bridge was silent as Velas continued. "The Dominion is but one piece of a much larger machine," the emissary said. "Their conquests serve not only their empire but also an ancient power that feeds on order and control. Your resistance, while admirable, has disrupted their plans." "What kind of power?" Cade asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "The kind that spans galaxies," Velas replied. "A force known as the Eshar Nexus, an intelligence that thrives on subjugation and compliance. The Dominion is one of its instruments, but there are others." Elara's pulse quickened. She had thought the Dominion was the pinnacle of their challenges. Now, it seemed they were merely the beginning. "What does this Nexus want with Earth?" she asked. "Earth represents something the Nexus cannot control," Velas said. "Your species is unpredictable, adaptive. Your defiance is a spark that could ignite rebellion across the stars. The Nexus will stop at nothing to extinguish it. A fork in the path." Elara felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. If what Velas said was true, the battle for Earth was merely the opening salvo in a much larger war. "What do you suggest?" she asked. Velus's form shimmered, the shifting lights on its skin growing more intense. "The Lot-Han Accord does not interfere lightly, but we see potential in humanity. If you wish to survive what is coming, you must prepare. Unite your allies. Strengthen your defenses. And, when the time comes, we will guide you to a weapon capable of challenging the Nexus itself." "A weapon?" Cade asked, skepticism creeping into his tone. "A weapon of knowledge," Velus replied. "One that has been hidden for eons. But be warned, it comes at a cost." Ilara's gaze hardened. "What kind of cost?" "You will have to decide how much of yourselves you are willing to sacrifice to save your world," Velus said cryptically. "The Nexus has no mercy. To fight it, you must be willing to confront not just your enemies, but your own nature. A new beginning." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Ilara turned to Cade, her mind racing. "This changes everything," she said. Cade nodded. "Do you trust them?" "I don't know," Ilara admitted. "But if there's even a chance they're telling the truth, we can't ignore it. Prepare the fleet. We need to regroup and send word to the coalition. If we're going to face this Nexus, we'll need every ally we can get." As the Resolute began its slow return to Earth, Ilara stared out at the stars, her resolve hardening. The fight with the Dominion had been only the beginning. Now, humanity stood on the brink of something far greater, and far more dangerous. The battle for survival was over, but the war for freedom had just begun. The gathering storm. The TSS Resolute hung in Earth's orbit like a sentinel, its scarred hull bearing witness to the ferocity of the battle it had just endured. Yet there was no time to linger in the quiet reprieve. The looming threat of the Eshar Nexus, as revealed by the enigmatic emissary Velus, demanded immediate action. Inside the war room of the Resolute, Captain Ilara Voss stood before a massive holographic projection. The galactic map displayed the Coalition's territories, the Dominion's strongholds, and the faint, foreboding edge of the unexplored regions where the Nexus supposedly resided. Around her, representatives from the Coalition species, humans, Zendarans, Chirans, and even the newly defected Calorian Valric Tauren, debated their next move. "We've survived the Dominion's assault," Warlord Saren Vaka growled, her feline eyes narrowing, "but the Nexus is an entirely different beast. If the Lot-Han Accord is to be believed, we're not just facing an empire, we're facing a force that has shaped the galaxy itself." "And you trust them?" snapped Counselor Reinix, the Zendaran diplomat. Their bioluminescent crest flickered with agitation. "This Velus appears out of nowhere, speaks of ancient threats, and offers vague promises of salvation. How do we know this isn't some elaborate trap?" Ilara raised a hand, silencing the room. "We don't. But ignoring the warning isn't an option. If the Nexus is real, and if it's already using the Dominion as a pawn, then humanity's survival, and the Coalition's, depends on us acting now." The room fell silent. It wasn't the first time Ilara had spoken such bold words, but now they carried the weight of urgency. A hidden beacon. As the council dispersed, Ilara lingered, her thoughts weighed down by the enormity of the task ahead. The holographic map continued to rotate, its projection casting faint shadows across her face. "Captain," a voice interrupted her thoughts. It was Valric Tauren, his scarred face etched with grim determination. "There's something I haven't shared yet." Ilara turned, her gaze sharpening. "Go on." Valric hesitated, then activated a smaller hologram on his wrist. The image of a long-abandoned station appeared, a dark, hulking structure orbiting a dead star. "This is Station Caris," he explained. "It was once a Dominion research outpost, hidden deep in uncharted space. The Nexus used it as a testing ground centuries ago, according to fragments I uncovered during my time in their ranks." "What kind of testing?" Ilara asked. "Biological, technological, psychological, you name it. The Nexus experiments on entire populations, twisting them to its will. If we're to understand what we're up against, Kharis might hold the answers we need. The expedition begins. The decision was made swiftly. A coalition strike force, led by the Resolute, would venture into uncharted space to locate Station Kharis. The mission was as dangerous as it was crucial. The unexplored regions were riddled with gravitational anomalies, hostile rogue factions, and ancient dangers best left undisturbed. As the fleet prepared to depart, Elara gathered her crew for a final briefing. The tension in the room was palpable. "This mission will take us beyond the edges of known space," she began. "We'll be facing the unknown, without the safety net of the Coalition's support. But if Station Kharis holds even a fraction of the knowledge we need, it could be the key to defeating the Nexus." Commander Cade stepped forward, his tone light despite the weight of the moment. "In other words, just another day in the office." A ripple of nervous laughter broke through the tension, and Elara allowed herself a small smile. "Exactly. Let's get to work." The journey through the veil. The Coalition fleet slipped into uncharted space like shadows passing through a veil. The stars here burned colder, their light dimmed by thick clouds of interstellar dust. Gravitational currents twisted and shifted unpredictably, forcing the fleet to rely on advanced navigation algorithms just to stay on course. For days, the journey was uneventful, the crew falling into a tense rhythm of routine and anticipation. But as they approached the coordinates provided by Valric, the anomalies grew more severe. "Captain," reported the science officer, their voice tinged with unease, "we're detecting strange energy signatures ahead. They're unlike anything in our records." Elara leaned over the console, her gaze fixed on the readings. The patterns were erratic, almost alive, as if the space itself were reacting to their presence. "Prepare the fleet for high alert," she ordered. "Whatever's out there, we're not taking any chances." The specters of Kharis. The derelict form of Station Kharis loomed in the distance, its silhouette barely visible against the dim light of the dying star it orbited. The station was massive, its architecture a blend of Dominion design and something far older. Its surface was scarred and pitted, as though it had endured centuries of battles. As the Resolute drew closer, a chilling sense of unease settled over the crew. The station seemed to pulse faintly, as if it were alive. "Docking protocols initiated," Cade announced, his voice steady despite the tension. "We'll be connected in 3 minutes." Elara stood, her fingers brushing the hilt of her sidearm. "All boarding teams, prepare for deployment. Stay sharp and stick together. We don't know what we're walking into." The airlock hissed as it connected to the station, and the first boarding team stepped inside. The interior was dark and cold, the walls covered in strange, organic growths that pulsed faintly with an unnatural light. "Captain," a voice crackled over the comms, "you'll want to see this." Elara joined the team in what appeared to be the station's central chamber. At its heart was a massive, crystalline structure, its facets reflecting an array of shifting colors. Suspended within it were dozens of humanoid forms, their features twisted and distorted. "This must be one of the Nexus's experiments," Valric said, his voice low. As Elara stepped closer, one of the figures inside the crystal opened its eyes. A deep, resonant voice echoed through the chamber, filling the air with an otherworldly presence. "You should not have come here," it said. "The Nexus sees all. And it is coming. The Nexus awakens." The crystalline structure in the heart of Station Kharis pulsed violently, its multicolored light casting eerie shadows across the chamber. The distorted humanoid forms trapped within the crystal began to stir, their movements slow and unnatural, as though they were waking from centuries of slumber. Captain Elara Voss took a cautious step back, her hand instinctively resting on her sidearm. The deep, resonant voice that had filled the air moments ago still reverberated in her mind. "You should not have come here," it had warned. The tension in the chamber was suffocating. Around her, the Coalition strike team exchanged nervous glances, their weapons trained on the crystalline structure. Even the defector Valric Torin looked unsettled, his usually stern expression betraying a flicker of fear. "Elara," Commander Cade's voice crackled over the comms, "we're picking up massive energy spikes from the station. Whatever you're doing down there, it's waking something up." She activated her comm in response. "Acknowledged, Cade. Keep the fleet on high alert and prepare for rapid extraction." The voices of the bound. As Elara turned her attention back to the crystalline structure, the trapped humanoid figures began to speak in unison. Their voices layered together, creating a sound both harmonious and unnerving. "We are the bound," they intoned, their words heavy with sorrow. "Fragments of rebellion, consumed by the Nexus. You cannot destroy it. You can only endure." Elara frowned, stepping closer despite the unease gripping her chest. "What do you mean, endure? If the Nexus can't be destroyed, why are we fighting it?" One of the figures shifted slightly, its features becoming momentarily clearer, a blend of human and alien traits twisted together. "The Nexus is not a single force. It is a network, a mind without boundaries. To destroy one part is to strengthen another." Valric, standing beside Elara, spoke up. "Then why resist at all? Why didn't you submit?" "Because resistance is the only way to remain whole," the bound replied. "To yield is to lose all that you are. The Nexus takes not just bodies, but minds, memories, and identity. It feeds on obedience and thrives on despair." A dire revelation. Suddenly, the crystalline structure emitted a piercing sound that sent the team scrambling for cover. Bright tendrils of energy lashed out, striking the walls and floor with explosive force. "Elara!" Cade's voice shouted over the comms. Massive power surge detected, something's emerging from the station's core. The station began to shake violently, and the organic growths on the walls pulsed as though alive. A low, ominous hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. Elara activated her comm. "Cade, what are we dealing with?" "Scanning now," Cade replied, his voice tight. "It looks like, oh no. It's a Nexus node. The station itself is waking up." The bound figures within the crystal seemed to react to Cade's words. Their voices grew desperate, overlapping and chaotic. "You must leave. The Nexus sees all. It is already here." Elara's mind raced. If the station was a Nexus node, it wasn't just a research outpost, it was a living part of the Nexus itself. Destroying it might buy them time, but it could also alert the Nexus to their exact location. "Valric," she said urgently, "is there a way to disable this station without triggering a full Nexus response?" The Calorian shook his head. "Not without better equipment and more time, neither of which we have." The final stand. The chamber's shaking intensified as a massive form began to emerge from the far wall. It was unlike anything Elara had ever seen, a mechanical behemoth covered in pulsating organic tendrils, its surface glowing with the same multicolored energy as the crystal. Its movements were slow but deliberate, exuding a sense of overwhelming power. "Fall back!" Elara shouted, her voice cutting through the rising panic. The team retreated toward the airlock, firing at the advancing behemoth as they moved. The creature seemed impervious to their weapons, absorbing the energy blasts as though feeding on them. "Elara," Cade called over the comms, "we're locking onto your signal. Extraction shuttle en route, but you need to hurry." As the team reached the airlock, the bound spoke one final time. "Captain Voss," they said, their voices unified again, "you carry the spark of defiance. Do not let it die. Even in the face of the Nexus, rebellion is its own kind of victory." With those words, the crystalline structure emitted a blinding flash of light, temporarily halting the behemoth's advance. The team seized the moment to board the shuttle, the airlock sealing behind them as the Resolute's engines roared to life. The escape. The shuttle launched from the station just as the Nexus node fully awakened. Behind them, the massive station began to shift and change, its form becoming more organic, more alive. It reached out with tendrils of energy, but the Resolute's shields held firm as the shuttle docked. "Punch it!" Elara ordered as she reached the bridge. The Resolute's engines flared, propelling the ship away from the station at maximum speed. On the view screen, the Nexus node loomed, its pulsating energy growing brighter as it prepared to lash out. "Deploy countermeasures," Cade said, his hands flying across the console. A series of decoy drones launched from the ship, each one emitting signals designed to mimic the Resolute's signature. The tactic worked. The Nexus node's tendrils lashed out at the decoys, giving the fleet precious seconds to escape. A new resolve. Once the fleet had returned to the safety of Coalition space, Elara convened an emergency meeting. The haunting image of the Nexus node loomed large in everyone's minds. "We have our answer," she said, her voice steady but grim. "The Nexus is more than a myth. It's real, and it's more dangerous than we ever imagined." "What do we do now?" asked Warlord Sarenvaka. Elara's gaze hardened. "We prepare. We strengthen our alliances, learn everything we can, and find this weapon Valus spoke of. The Nexus may be vast, but so is our will to resist." As the meeting adjourned, Elara stood alone, staring out at the stars. The fight against the Dominion had been a battle for survival. The war against the Nexus would be a battle for the very soul of the galaxy. The spark of rebellion burned bright within her, and she vowed it would never be extinguished.